Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. We will continue reading the book Al-Ajwaba Al-Jaliyah, or the clear answer to Hanbali rulings, by Sheikh Musa bin Isa Al-Qudumi rahimahullah. So let us begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna bima yanfa'una wa zidna ilman ya Rabbil Alameen. قال المؤلف رحمه الله نفع الله به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين آمين. So this is lesson number 9, where we will be discussing the description of al-wudu. As usual, we're reading the translation by Sheikh Khalid Shah. So if you have the book, we're on page 33, question number 16. So the author starts, inform me about the complete description of wudu. And he replies, its description is. So we will go through the text, but we will add a little more detail because what he's mentioned here is maybe not inclusive of everything that he previously mentioned. As far as some of the sunnahs. So before we start reading what he's mentioned here, let's remember that it is the sunnah to face the qibla if you can, and to do miswak. Then he says, A, to make intention for wudu of salah or prayer. So just a quick clarification here. He says for wudu of salah, or in the Arabic, al-wudu lis-salah. And in the previous lesson, we mentioned that it's not sufficient to say just like at-tahara or purification. I intend purification, or I intend al-wudu. But if you add something to this, instead of just having it by itself, it's valid. So like wudu for prayer, wudu for recitation. Likewise, one can say raf al-hadath. And as we said in the last lesson, one makes this intention in the heart and can also pronounce it silently, sirran. This means, you would say something but not in a loud way, and I think we've discussed that in the last lesson. Then B, he goes on to say, then say Bismillah. And then C, wash the hands 3 times. So the 2 previous things we've mentioned, making the intention and saying Bismillah, can both be done while washing the hands. So these things are kind of going on concurrently. And just as a reminder here, in case that someone is waking up from a nighttime sleep, then one has to wash the hands 3 times, but separately, with a separate intention before beginning the wudu. Otherwise, the washing of the hands suffices here. The author has a footnote here where he says, there is a difference of opinion on this being sunnah. The research scholars have pointed out that there is no hadith text establishing it is a sunnah. There's a lot to unpack here. I think what's important to mention, number 1, if we go to also look at Dalil al-Talib, they mention this point. And if we look at also Muntaha al-Iradat, it also says the same thing. I've had a quick look at a few other books, including Al-Iqna' by Al-Hajawi, and Al-Muqna' and Al-Mughni by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qudama, and none of these books actually mention this point. So I think the fact that it's mentioned in Dalil al-Talib and Muntaha al-Iradat, we can definitely accept this as the correct position in the madhab, inshallah. And regarding to what the Sheikh Khalid is saying here, with all due respect, I disagree. I'm not sure what he's implying. I have a sense he's implying something else, but I would say there's also no hadith that's establishing that one has to say this out loud. So if we see that there's no text saying that it's out loud, we can assume that it's something that's done quietly. And what's interesting is if we look at what Al-Buhuti mentions in Sharh al-Muntaha, he quotes Shaykh Taqiyuddin min Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, where he says that the Imams are in agreement that it's not legislated to vocalize it, meaning the niyyah. So this is also, I think, quite a good evidence from Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. And I do want to mention one thing, because I think that when people make these comments about the madhab and the positions in the madhab, I mean, frankly, it's very dangerous. And people, I don't even know what it means, research scholars. Who are these people? Are these the mujtahid imams? I don't think so. But if we refer to also what Ibn Qudama mentions in Al-Mughni under the intention for prayer. So now this is prayer, but I think what he's saying here about the intention generally, it'll apply to the other things. So he says here, وَمَعْنَى النِّيَّةِ الْقَصْدِ وَمَحَلُّهَا الْقَلْبِ وَإِنْ لَفَظَ بِهَا نَوَاهُ كَانَ تَأْكِيدًا. So the meaning of niyyah is intention, and its place is in the heart. So let's focus here. Its place is in the heart. It's not in the tongue. And if one pronounces it, it's just for emphasis. So he's using this word wa'in. It's if. So it's clear here that it's not something that's necessary, and definitely not a sunnah. So please consider that, and please be confident that we can go with what is mentioned in this book in Dalil al-Talib and Muntal Iradat. Now regarding the beard, if one can see the skin underneath, one should also wash the beard. In case that the beard is thick to the point that one can't see the skin beneath, one can wash the so-called outside of the beard, as what was mentioned in the hadith, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would take a handful of water and kind of place it under his chin and make it go through his beard. So this is the ruling for the heavier beard. Likewise, it is sunnah for the person who has the heavier or thicker beard to also run their fingers through the beard. Then one will wash their arms up to and including the elbow 3 times. So we have also mentioned that it's a sunnah to go beyond the elbow, but if one goes up to and including the elbow, they have achieved what is required. And then the author goes on, G. Wipe the whole head, passing wet hands from the front of the hairline to the nape, and wipe them back from the nape to the front. The nape is just the skin of the neck. And as we mentioned, we don't have a lot of leniency here. We need to be wiping the whole head, not part of it. And just to remind you, in the case that one is bald, or has another condition, when we say the hairline, it is where the hair would normally grow. And this is also just to remind you the difference between the washing and the wiping. So washing, the water actually needs to be flowing, whereas the wiping, it just suffices that the hand is wet, and then you can wipe with the wet hand. The author goes on to H, to insert the index fingers in the ears and wipe the back of the ears with the thumbs. And when wiping the ears, it is sunnah to wipe with new water. You don't have to get new water, but you should wet your hand again and then wipe to achieve the sunnah. And when we talk about wiping the head, it also includes this skin that's between the top of the ear and the hairline. Then the author continues, to wash the feet up to and including the ankles 3 times. And this is just as we explained with washing the hands. It is a sunnah to go beyond the ankles. And then upon completing the wudu, one looks up to the sky and reads the dua that we read before. And in fact, these are 2 dua that are put together. So the first part of the dua is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And this is what is recorded by Imam Muslim. And as just an added benefit here, it says the one who reads that إلا فتحت له أبواب الجنة الثمانية يدخل من أيها شاء. So if you read that dua after completing the wudu, the 8 doors of Al-Jannah will open and one may enter from anyone he pleases. And then often added onto that is the supplication, Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawabina wa ja'alni min ibadika al-mutatahhirina. So this is also mentioned in Musnad al-Imam Ahmed and Sunan Abu Dawood. So now we have gone through the whole description of the wudu. This is in fact what's similarly mentioned in some of the longer books, although they do explain some of the evidence for that in more detail, but it's generally what we see in some of the longer books. So today was a bit of a short lesson. I know the previous one was a little long, so let's stop here, and inshallah the next lesson we will talk about al-mas al-khufain, or wiping over the khufs or footgear. So thank you for your joining me today, and I ask Allah to give you guidance and knowledge and make us of the mutatahhirin. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.